You're not a bonehead, Sister Sunshine. I may be, because I don't know if you can hear me. Let me make sure. Check, check, check. Yeah, it looks like that is working. So welcome to Monday. I've got tea, and I don't anticipate it being on too long. The alternative right now for me, what I did in the last hour is a portion of the required mandatory continuing legal education. And worse, I'm trying to get out of the way some of the silly stuff. Now, the older I get, you're gonna laugh. The older I get here, you're gonna laugh, those that have known me for a long time. The more conservative I get. And so what I'm having to do right now is the required elimination of bias. We have to do ethics. I think it's like 4 hours, 4.5 hours of legal ethics and elimination of bias. And what I'm watching right now is, oh, I've got it paused, but what I was watching before I said I can't take this anymore is elimination of bias, woman in the law flying the coop on the wings of economic and institution power. To listen to a woman who's been a successful attorney by all appearances for 40 years, who's married and who is has children and seems to have a fine life, talk to me for an hour about the struggles that she had. But she started with back in the old days. And it's like, well, I read this with Jordan Peterson, who I like a lot. Jordan Peterson kind of became an alt-right favorite, conservative favorite, and certainly a pariah among liberals. So I'm supposed to hate him. And in fact, when I first learned about him, my pastor actually mentioned him to me, and I just had read some small amount of stuff with him. I just knew that people who were supposed to be on my side didn't like him. So therefore, I didn't like him. And then I actually decided, if my pastor likes him, and my pastor is a good friend of mine, and my pastor I consider to be very wise, then let me give it a shot. And so I started watching Jordan Peterson on YouTube, and then I was enamored. He makes sense. And a lot of what he makes sense about is when he talks about these issues, like required things that I have to study here as part of my mandatory continuing legal education, is that a lot of it is just crap. And it's true, because when you think about when women talk about, like, oh, we've been hidden in the workplace and we've had all these issues. Well, a lot of the reason for that was social, but not like patriarchal. It wasn't to try and keep women down. It was the idea that it was biological, that women had menstruation, for instance, and that would keep them out. That women certainly had the same rules, and I didn't intend on going on this diatribe right now, so but feel free to comment on it. But more importantly, the invention of sanitary napkins and the tampon didn't come in till like the beginning of the 1900s. I forget what it said, but right around the time when suffrage happened, and then women started to get the ability, because somebody had the bright idea to let's make women more mobile, particularly in that week that they have their period. And when that happened, women have started to take over. And what is happening in a number of industries, particularly medical, very high up industries, is they're being dominated by women. You go to med school, and apparently med schools right now all over are majority women. And I have to study the fact that I need to eliminate bias. Oh, sorry, I knocked something over. I thought I had ghosts or something. Ecto. It was actually something, I guess, that got pushed down because I banged on the desk in my anger. So yeah, Peterson, the more I read Peterson's study, I read 12 Rules for Life. I probably mentioned this before. Maps of Meaning is his first great work, and it's really what put him on the map, particularly in Canada where he is and where it started, and then it took off. He took off with the gender stuff that because when Canada passed a law 2 years ago, I think, trying to squelch speech, particularly among, let's say, professors in school, to make it jailable if a professor refused to call a student by their preferred gender pronoun, that could be actionable with jail penalty. Von Helton, right? This is where Von Helton comes in, and he goes, then he's right. And that's when Peterson sort of came in, and then he started, he wrote the 12 Rules for Life, bouncing off that fame that he got from there. And all of the stuff in there, people would make fun of it, but man, my pastor did a whole 12-week series on every chapter that he just ended, not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before. Some clips that my favorite YouTuber, Thick Shades, used on his own channel. So even he liked it. So that kind of covers the whole gambit if you want to take a look at Jordan Peterson related stuff as it relates to his biblical references. That's one of the great things about 12 Rules for Life is Peterson uses a lot of references to the Bible. It's really cool. He never has confessed to be a Christian, but that's something different. So Sister Sunshine says, just declare yourself to be a woman, Rob. I think that in my younger years, I used to eat this stuff up. I used to say, yes, it's so good that we have elimination of bias classes, and we need to eliminate the bias. And it's like, I'll tell you, I mean, there's something to be said, and I didn't mean to get into this diatribe. We can talk about it, and I'll put a link out there. It's totally different than I intended. There's something to be said about certain biases and prejudice. It happens, okay, outside of the biological aspect. And it happened, I discovered it with race, because one of my best friends, he was black, and also he was half Thai, half black. My last year of college, I was his boss, but he became one of my best friends. We worked in the dorms. And I remember at the beginning, like when I became a resident advisor in the dorms, they give you this big, massive manual that nobody read. And, you might casually glance at it. You don't get tested on it. It's like, okay, I'll refer to this in the event of some kind of emergency, or I don't know. I'm just going to, we have an orientation in classes. I'm going to focus on that. I don't get tested. I don't need, this is a job. I got hired for a good reason. I think I'll be good at it. All that is good. But my friend, in the first week that I got to know him, I remember visiting him on his hall before everything was going down. I want to see, do you have any last minute concerns and stuff as residents move into the dormitories? And as I do that, he opens the door, and he's legitimately going through like the 150-page manual that we give out. And he's reading it and taking notes. And he wasn't faking it, because there was a whole set of notes I saw. And I said, his name's Mike. I said, and he's now the chief of police at UC Riverside. This is how good, he's great. He's a great guy. And he does a great job over there. But he felt that because he was black, identifies black, he looked more black than he looked Thai, that he needed to prove himself above others. That was a big mental thing for me to go, I never really thought about that. Like, he felt that there was a higher standard because people were going to presume certain things about him and his capabilities. And I think that he was right. So, and I guess that happened, that not even I guess, it happens with women too. So there are biases that are against them and stuff, but I think this whole patriarchal society, as Peterson identifies, is way overblown. So now that I got to that, hi Ryan, how are you? Matt L said something, yeah, interesting. I guess we'll go to this, because I actually wanted to talk about this briefly. I see old Thick Shades just couldn't resist making a video of sisters hang out with Vaughn. Yeah, because he's the ultimate troll. He's so good at it, though. He's really, really good at it, because he got me with he didn't get the advertisement for counterdmca.com, unfortunately, but he got the part where I mentioned about the potato on the face, a joke with Vaughn that things would have been much worse, rather than, you know, somebody trying to buy his daughter, but they put a potato on his face, clearly being facetious, which is kind of my modus operandi, as you say. So where I wanted to go with this guy, though, before we talked about YouTube, and December 10th being tomorrow, the day of infamy potentially, is I did get wind of a video that good old Grace Gospel Evangelism did. And I was interested in it just because I saw that it was talking about condemning people publicly and revealing, bringing to light things that are secret. Particularly, they're talking about sin. And so Bill, in his infinite wisdom, he's angry at something he saw on COTES, C-O-T-E-S, which is Church of the Eternally Secure. I don't follow them. It's Renee Roland, and it's Sin City Preacher. I'm forgetting his name offhand. Somebody will help me with that, I'm sure, and I might remember as we go. But they came out in some discussion, and it allegedly, not allegedly, from his own mouth on Bill's channel, he was very upset that they would say, if they found someone in their circle having committed adultery, keep it secret, keep it quiet. And he's like, how could you do that? And then use biblical justification to do it. It's awful. So I'm going to bring in witness number one, or brother number one, to help confirm it with me that we should expose sin. And when we are identified in our sin and it's been exposed, we need to confess it. So I'm going to bring in my brother, expert in this issue, Thick Shades. I mean, right away, you got to laugh. This is the guy who 6 months ago had Pokemon.net pointing to monsters having anal and oral sex and lying about it and hiding it and hiding his name from and not knowing that I knew. And still, you know, he doesn't know, he hasn't seen the proof that I have. He knows that I have it. That's why he hasn't asked it, because he knows it's his. And everyone knows it's his now, because then he pointed it to people. Pointed it, now it points to toys or whatever. So I couldn't watch. I think I was streaming that as I was working, listening to it for a half hour, and just was so, it was hilarious to me, because it was typical at the start of Sam when he was introduced, saying some diatribe that made absolutely no sense. Maybe he was caught off guard, but it's usually typical. And then he would make comments to help support biblically the reason why we need to expose sin, which was really funny, and then confess it. And then at the same time, every time Bill would come back in, he's probably doing something else and not even paying attention to Sam. Yes, bro. He'd come in and say, yeah, bro, 100% agree. And it was hilarious to me. So if you, Sam, I know you're going to watch this. So if you're going to take that tactic, then as I've said before, our problems could have been resolved many, many months ago, and still likely can, if you just confessed that the things that I discovered, rather than say I'm a false accuser and liar, to confess them, right? And maybe you've confessed them to Bill, and he's helped to absolve you for that, and he's prayed for you, and all of those good things. And I hope that that's the case, and I hope that you're out of all that circle. But can you realize what a joke that is? I mean, didn't it like tinge you? I know you thought of me as you were talking about all those things. I know you had to have thought about all of your porn domains and where they were pointing this year. And yet here we are at the end of the year. And now you're Mr. Yes, we need to expose sin, when you can't even confess to the sin that you did that was exposed. So there we go. I'm going to, yeah, Luke, thank you, a Sin City Preacher. So that's all I wanted to say on that. And I think that I addressed that in my title. And I think that Sam is probably here now because there aren't that many people on this channel that would watch. And now that I have 7, that's pretty big for this group. So hello, Sam. Glad that you're here. Let's see. Maybe the Mandela effect will change it from cartoon porn to something else. It was as bad as it gets. I mean, it was really, really nasty, hardcore stuff. We all know that. So here's this guy, Nathan. I don't know who this guy is. Von Helton was ganged up on, and a lot of what was said concerning his kids now was plain wrong. He's a storyteller and bragger, but he loves his kids and they love him. That's fine. I know nothing about Von Helton. I saw that the reason I was in that hangout, I didn't know what the drama was. I just wanted to say hi to my friend, Sister Sunshine, and Bruce. And then I was making jokes because, you know, Vaughn was going crazy. I don't even know why he was in there. So that was amusing to me. Let's see here. Sabella came in on the nasty, hardcore stuff, or Shepard did. Yeah, I figured you'd like that part. Sabella can fill you in on some of the early stuff. If he was that bad, CPS would have his kids. I don't want to talk about Vaughn. I wish Vaughn well. And clearly he's a troubled person. There's no doubt about that. And the last place that he should be is here on YouTube. That's what I would say. So I'm going to put out a link as we head into talk maybe more about that, maybe more about my required MCLE, continuing legal education stuff I've got to do before February 1st. Maybe about whether or not you are worried about losing your YouTube channel tomorrow. I saw something, this was with Steven Crowder. I like to watch Steven Crowder. Yeah, liberal. Again, I'm getting more conservative, and I enjoy Steven Crowder a lot. Don't always agree with him, but I enjoy him. And he apparently didn't do a live show because he's concerned about this new policy. It's like, I want to be, I mean, I hope that I'm right. I don't want to be wrong. I suppose that it is possible that I'm wrong, but it makes no sense. YouTube's bread and butter is you, it's me. It's not necessarily the guys, the content creators, because let's face it, the only reason that if we're honest with ourselves, that we get involved. Sister Sunshine, I saw you make a video related to the Onision stuff, which is, I'm seeing a tinge of what's going on there because Chris Hansen or something is taken up on that. And there were a couple of videos that came up in my watch this feed on YouTube. So they're kind of enjoying that and the attention that that's all getting. This place is all about drama, but the only reason that we made accounts in a lot of cases was because we wanted to go to these places and then post on there and then get noticed. And YouTube knows that's the bread and butter, because what happens if YouTube starts taking away our channels of the little guys like me, like Sister Sunshine, who's certainly bigger than me, Bruce, all, you know, thick shit. They're going to remove all these channels? No, because then we're going to go to BitChute or somewhere else like they're already trying to go to, right? I'm not going. This is good enough for me. I don't need to figure something else right now. This is good enough. I'll try and work from here. But YouTube will lose people, and when you lose people, viewers, it's the kid, you know, the kids that were posting on Onision's channel that wanted, like, Onision, watch, I just did a video about you. Come to my channel. I want attention. That's what this is all about, right? Of course it is. Let's be honest. Here's Nathan. Again, Nathan, I don't know who you are. 2 days ago in a Big C hangout, they were wishing death on him in side chat. That's terrible. I don't want to say too much about him, but clearly there's something wrong there. Talking about astral projection, we're talking about the Forrest Gump in a way, because he's involved with every single possible thing you can imagine, whether it's the NASA program or spies or the end of the world, CIA, secret, M6 Mexican gangs. There's a whole laundry list of things that he's claimed to be involved with and may have lied about it. And so people just should probably leave him alone, I would say. Let's keep going here. All right, I'm still going. No one else has joined the chat yet. Yeah, here we go. Rules are different. I'm going to go back to it. Sabella says we'll go back to that. When Sam does a sin, exactly, and I could see his argument as it was happening in his head, because I know he had to be processing it. He focused on David's sin in Samuel, particularly that he was a murderer in God's eyes, because God said, you killed Uriah. You killed him. You put him on the front lines. His adultery with Bathsheba. And so Sam's response to what I said would be porn domains, and pointing the porn domains is not adultery and is not murder. Ergo, it doesn't apply to me. Okay. You'll have to take that up with God. Take that up with Bill. Apparently, Bill, I guess, agrees with you. Yeah, Nathan, you're right. It's not wise to attack people that are in low places. Generally, I have a tendency to attack people who attack others. And I don't see Vaughn. Vaughn isn't, as far as I can tell, doesn't seem to be attacking people. So that's why he's never been on my radar, because I never felt like he was unjustly attacking other people or being a total jerk or claiming to be a Christian and acting the complete opposite and then espousing false Christian dogma and then new age stuff like a Mandela effect or something. Those are people I think that we need to call out on, or particularly those that are like hypocritical. On the one hand saying we need to expose adultery, and on the other hand saying no, leading people to pornography is not the same thing. Jesus laughs about that. He's perfectly happy. So here we go. Sister Sunshine says the sound doesn't work. It might have been that I got delayed a little bit. You also can call. I just realized I forgot that I put my office number on the bottom there. Sister Sunshine said it wasn't an attack. You wanted to have a say. Yeah, I guess I just saw your channel before I came on. I was peeking over because I didn't want to put a live chat up if Bruce was on or if you were on, Sister Sunshine. So when I saw that you weren't on, I did see a video that might have been the impetus for that live chat with Vaughn. It was Vaughn, you lied to me, and all I saw, I didn't watch too much of it. I skimmed through. It was text of somebody apparently who was Vaughn, who was trying to get nude pictures from an alleged minor. Obviously not good, right? So if that was probably the impetus for it, and I didn't know. So all of that I was clueless to. I came in, in typical fashion, because it was, I think it was Friday night, and it was the end of a long work week. I hadn't been on in a while. I wanted to say hi to some of my friends, and I just happened to join in on it. So Sister Sunshine's in the car. Please just listen. So I hope that and we have Mr. Suave Trainwreck. I don't know why you wouldn't come in on your new channel. Jeez. But it was my pleasure helping you get that. And I did put a link in there. I'll do it again if somebody wants to come in. Otherwise, I probably won't stay on too long. The sum and substance of what I've said, I wanted to talk about briefly. If you're just coming in here, Bruce, I talked about Bill's latest hangout that he had with Sam, of all people, to discuss the merits of publicly condemning sin and then seeking contrition from those who have sinned in the church, I guess. It was pretty hilarious that Bill decided my right-hand man on this issue needs to be the guy who won't confess to all of the things that everyone who has any logical brain whatsoever knows to be true. So we now have my friend, Mr. Suave Trainwreck.
Hello. Holy heck, look at that. Jeez, what a mess.
But you look great. I got my haircut finally. This haircut is pretty good. I go to I know you do it on your own.
Yeah.
I work really
hard on making my hair look as best as possible.
you're smart, because I go to this place called Floyd's, which is a California place. They charge way too much for a haircut. They just basically take clippers, but they play rock music and they have cool rock related stuff.
That's pretty cool. I'll work on seeing if I can make it a little better.
I know, and they have all these really like hipster people that are doing haircuts.
My mirror's backwards.
Yeah, it's a little bit off. We'll call that the peacock.
It's rocking. Well, you know, if I could get some like bird call sounds, like maybe chickens, roosters, and crap. Okay.
Yeah.
I have to look up in the mirror.
Comments on that video that I thought was funny was it said I think this was Bill that said the only person who was reasonable in there was the rooster.
Yeah, I read, and he didn't speak well of us, of anybody,
because I'm friends with somebody that he hates.
Who?
The author of
no. Oh, that's right.
Darkest Path. Here, no, I still have to send this to you. Here we go. I am a, what did he call me? I can't remember what he said, but I'd have to look it up. See if you go to the video and see what I am right now. This is the Darkest Path. The paranormal in our layered reality. Sister Sunshine didn't like it so much. I liked it as a personal piece. There were good things, and I also like to read the private thoughts of some of my friends. And he's not somebody I met personally, not somebody I spent a long time with, but the author of this book and I, we seem to gel. He's a nice fellow, I think. And if he felt that he was wrong, I think that he's done some bad things. He may have been involved in transmitting some bad things, but haven't we all, right? And he didn't claim to be a Christian. So that's
no. He I mean, I feel bad doesn't claim to be a Satanist. I mean, I think, well, you know, anybody that doesn't agree with, well, I saw some of the true Christians the other night hanging. I heard you talking about that. That kind of drugged me in. That was very interesting to watch. It was an emergency hangout or something, and old Sam was there. I was impressed. I thought, well, it's definitely going to be some serious job of calling out people, you know.
Well, no, I thought the content was the best. That the idea was let's find scriptural.
I didn't even listen to the content. I left a couple comments, only like kidding around, because I mean, how serious can I take it? Hey, look. I mean, come on. I mean, how serious can you take?
Yeah. I don't know whether or not he does that anymore. That was 2009, right? That's what he would say. I'm going to be his counselor. He likes to call me counsel. I'm going to represent him here. That was a long time ago. And granted, he still believes in the merits of medicinal marijuana, and he could, you know, marijuana is all over the place here in California.
I think it's sort of iffy on the. I'm not going to say that it doesn't have some medicinal purposes. Heck, alcohol has medicinal purposes. Heroin, cocaine does, I guess, if you want to get technical about it. But I mean, I don't know.
No, there are
being all doped out and like trying to preach the Bible with time shifting and stuff going on and everything, the whole world changing around and the Bible's switching and this and that. I mean, how seriously am I supposed to take this?
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna. I was reading what Matt and Sister Sunshine are doing. It's another thing. So I'll move over to what Sabella wants to say is that the most common and powerful defense to copyright infringement claim is fair use, right? Yeah, I mean, you'd have to show me what the options are, but that would be the one that I would ask if without a multiple choice, right? Answer. Fair use would be because I mean, actually, the most powerful defense would be that no, you didn't create the work, I did. So the most powerful defense to a copyright infringement claim would be you don't own the copyright, mine. In the same, like, so that would be the starting defense that you would make, for instance, with Sam. When he just shows or that I would, I'm not going to put it in yours. I'm going to put it in mine. When he put up the shower videos, right? I did some shower videos to make fun of him. And then all he did was he distorted them a little bit and just played them, like the whole minute and 40 or whatever. They were very short videos. My absolute defense, and it's much better than fair use in fighting that claim, would be I made it.
If I plug in with a lot of distortion, right? I use a lot of distortion and a flanger, then I can go, and it's mine.
Well, they ripped that though. You do know they.
I know. That's the funny part. Did they, or did they just hear them? That melody's been used a number of different times. They're going way back, they say.
Oh, that.
However, though, can they do it this way? Yip, snip, yip, snip, tip, snip, yip, yip, it snip, yip, Satan,
Satan. No, there's that group. I forget what the group was called that did the Stairway to Heaven lick. They have a song.
I know.
Yeah, that was.
But they I've heard the melody back goes back even further than that. I mean, if you think about it, it's just dropping down, like half whole steps, whatever the heck it's doing. It's just dropping down, right into the very pitch. The pitch.
Yeah. This is where I'm going to differ with Sister Sunshine potentially. I've done videos on this in the past.
I'll stop.
There's a whole issue of Catholics being Christian. If being a Christian means that you need to repent, change your mind, and believe on the Lord Jesus and the things that he did, and whether or not you pray to saints or you do whatever, those few things make you a Christian by definition. If it's truly sola fidelis, or if it's truly only by faith that we are, then that's good enough for me. And God is going to need to do the work on you with the other stuff. I mean, do I think that praying to saints does anything? No, I don't. But do I think that somebody who does is unsaved? If they've changed their mind and they don't look to the world anymore and they believe on the Lord Jesus and everything that he did, yeah, that's good enough. So there we go.
Yeah, well, that's
somebody's calling.
I don't know. GY6 is calling.
This is a call for Robert Reed from
Ryan.
It's from Ryan. I don't know if you can still hear me though.
How did you create the blur?
I think they might have. I think you might have lost me. Can you hear me now?
Oh, it came about naturally.
Can you hear me?
Hey. Oh, where'd you go, Rob? Oh, he's gone.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but you can't hear Ryan.
I guess no, I can hear. Everything's good now. But what happened was when somebody called in, the Skype that I had connected did not work. And it took me out of the thing, I guess.
Wow.
So don't call me at that number, I guess. You're going to have to come through. So hold on. Let me take off.
I'll be right back. I'm gonna be more mature when I come back. Stop acting.
You can hear me though, right?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good.
Be right back.
You're going to be more mature when you come back?
Oh yes. I'm going to stop carrying on and stuff, acting like a kid. I think I drank too much coffee. Really, I've been drinking this like cheap coffee with like lots of Robusta beans. I think it's higher caffeinated or something. I did too much.
I need to take the banner down though. Don't call, because thank you for trying, Ryan. But apparently I can't. There was one time that I was able to do both. I have a lot of windows open, so maybe that's why I can't do both. Maybe this isn't a powerful enough computer for that. So my apologies. I know you try. I was trying to answer. You might have heard it ring. And all right, let me do a couple things here. But I think that were I being discussed in Bill's recent hangout, there is no doubt that they would agree that that I was, Sister Sunshine, the
worst Christian ever.
How did you that?
I can hear you.
You can hear me.
Yeah,
I'm
don't say
back.
anything. All right, good.
Proper now.
Yeah, it's a shame that I can't have the live call in here, but you can come in. I'm going to put in the once again the link to come into StreamYard. Ryan says he's on Discord, not Skype. He much prefers Discord. I did give you a greeting. Oh no, it's for DB.
Oh, I did get a kind of like a confession, but I got a pinup poster recently.
Of who?
Well, it's an army person
Who?
standing there. It's an army person standing there holding, and it's Vaughn. And
Was it really him? Did you see a close up of it?
Well, it's on my wall, and I kind of got tired of the porn domains, and such, so.
Well, the only reason it came up was I just thought it was so unbelievable to me that Sam is now a proponent of exposing sin and confessing it.
And confessing too.
Yeah, I mean, I was.
Now that is mind-blowing. Now that I would be impressed.
I became a Sam disciple right there.
Wait, you're saying he's confessing his sins before people?
No. He didn't. He's not confessing, I suppose, because he thinks what he did was not sinful. All right. He didn't do the sin. He just sent people to the people who were sinning. All right. He had no involvement in the creation of the content. He just got people. He gave people a way to get there. So
he's trying to get people so that they can meet up with somebody and confess their sins, or with the individual or with God.
He was agreeing with Bill that the Coates people, the Church of the Eternally Secure, Luke and company, were so very wrong when they said that when you find out that one of your group commits adultery, it's best to stay quiet about it. You remember when we had a chat with Bill and we showed Bill the video from Pokemon.net?
Yeah.
And he said we need to be quiet about it. Do you remember that?
Sure.
Keep it private.
Oh, but he's saying that this should be called out, though.
Yeah, that was funny too. That's what made it funny too. Some people may not know. I'm not going to go into the private.
So here would be my question: unless somebody's in leadership and people see it and unless it causes someone to stumble, well, problems are problems. I don't know where you draw the line on that, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, if somebody does something wrong, are they supposed to come out on YouTube and tell everybody or something?
Yeah, and that I agree with. Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, that's where here they can get me as a heretic along with Coates, as I think once again this is not church. It never has been, and the only issue I have
church. I mean, look. Okay, so you were doing 170 down back road because there was a straightaway. There were no cows or crossroads or anything there. So you go into church and you're supposed to go up and tell everybody. And the only reason you slowed down is because you saw this farmer lady. She was bending over, picking up a pail of water or something. Well, hey, I don't know. And then you stopped. You went back to meet the farmer lady. I don't know what happened from there. The whole point is, are you supposed to stand up in front of church and tell everyone?
No, but Sam said something wise, right?
The farmer came out with a pump semi-auto shotgun.
I don't need to know. Sam said something wise.
Stay with my doubter.
I'm going to mute you. Sam said something wise in that regard. He said, It's hard. I should remember this because it's very rare that he says something wise. I've lost what I was going to say. It's so busy trying to mute you. Sam said something wise, and I can't remember what it was all of a sudden. I'll remember in a sec. Let's go to some of the comments. Sister Sunshine, are you preparing for Christmas? I just bought a Santa hat for the rest of my chats and videos this month. Heretic. Although, this is what I wanted to find. My pastor did, you're going to love this picture. He did a sermon on the origins of Santa. And I would say to all my Jewish friends that would get upset at Santa and saying Merry Christmas in a secular context, and I'd say, look, Santa is not Christian, and then only to learn in this latest sermon that it's very Christian. The whole thing is extremely Christian. It's just the commercial aspect of it that's happened in the last 100 years in the United States is a thing that's not. And what I wanted to show you and show everyone, because I wanted to, speaking of putting a military guy on the wall, I guess it was Vaughn you said you made a poster of. There was a great use of Santa. I love this picture. And let me see if I can share it with you. This is what the United States government did when we were going to war. And it's this Santa Claus has gone to war. Your gift, plenty of weapons, the inland way for the USA. And we have Santa here waving at you with his button nose, rosy cheeks, red nose, and his massive military rifle there. His military issued rifle.
Hey. Wait a
Isn't that
minute.
awesome?
I'm still am I muted?
Can you not see it?
Am I muted? No, I'm not muted.
No, am I muted? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, don't mess around because I've already, have bad stuff here, bad connection. So I thought that was pretty.
This looks like to me, though. Honestly, this looks like some form of porn.
Well, you say something interesting in that regard too, because the guy who made the our modern vision of Santa Claus, which is really the Coca-Cola Santa.
Yeah.
You know the Santa that's portrayed in all the Coca-Cola ads?
Yeah.
It started, I think, in the 60s. That guy originally got his start working for Hustler, I think.
There was no Hustler back then, was there?
Well, I mean, there was a pornography magazine that artist. If you look it up, it was a part. He didn't include that in his sermon, but when my pastor was telling me about all the stuff he discovered that the guy that Coca-Cola hired to do their pictures of Santa Claus was the same guy that was hired previously by a porno magazine.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that Sam would like.
It's kind of weird you mentioned that. I was at CVS today. They had this life-size Santa Claus. But it was weird. He had the modern face. When I say modern, though, that is the Coca-Cola thing, right? That was what, 50s?
Yeah.
60s. I'm not sure when that happened, but it was that face, but with the red suit and the and the fluffy stuff and the big beard, but he was skinny, and that was kind of weird because I thought the Coca-Cola Santa Claus was fat. He was big and he was jolly.
Are you? I thought you were starting this and you were going to make a joke and say that it.
No, I was
like
offended.
He was making a big O, like this.
No,
like
I was kind of offended because
blow up Santa.
The skinny Santa Claus is the one that looks kind of satanic. No, but that's the one that looks like the old time, like dressed in brown and stuff, and more. Well, it looks like something you would have seen in what 1700s, 1800s, or whatever, isn't it? Or the one that goes back, the actual witchcraft of Santa Claus. I don't know what the heck wasn't there like some guy named Saint Nicholas?
Yeah. No,
was for real, I
learned
think.
in the sermon. You could. I'm sure my pastor. It was filmed, I think, so it'll be up on lifehouse.la soon.
And then
If
there's
it's not there already. It started out with Saint Nicholas, and then it evolved. And what I loved about learning the history of Santa Claus and really the celebration of Christmas was that in England, in like the 300s, 400s in England, the idea of Father Christmas developed, and the religious, particularly the Protestants, went after the Catholics who were celebrating St. Nicholas Day on December 6th. And they felt that was wrong. They actually wanted to kill the person who was involved with that. And it was pretty funny how all of that went down. And in fact, it led to England banning the celebration of Christmas altogether.
Right.
And so it was the Protestants that did that. And then when the Protestants move over to the United States as the Pilgrims, they banned the celebration of Christmas.
Well, what about the Germans? Germans didn't like it either, did they? Or am I wrong?
It was particularly the British, but I think you're right with the Germans. But it was Martin Luther that actually gave us most of the Christmas traditions that we have right now, actually. Martin Luther created the idea of putting lights on Christmas trees and cutting them and bringing them into the house.
Back then?
Oh yeah, and he's the one that came up with the concept of Christmas carols. He would convert when he was writing music. He created Christmas carols, and my pastor made an interesting aside with that. Is he said the reason that we don't sing Martin Luther Christmas carols in church is because most of them are like 16 verses.
Well, did you ever like sit in a room with, say, a small church with a couple hundred people, or you get in a big church with 1,000 or more people, and you notice when everybody lights those candles up, what's the room do? It gets really, really hot.
Oh yeah, you're right.
What's that tell you there?
It's the fires of hell they're seeping through.
There you go.
Is that it? Yeah, no, we have a great Christmas tree in my church. I love it.
Yeah.
So let's see. So Matt L has an announcement. I'm sorry, Matt.
Sister Sunshine says Krampus is making a big comeback, but who is Necht Ruprecht? I can't remember. Necht Ruprecht or something like that. That was supposed to be an evil bad character in the old Santa Claus thing or something, I think.
I don't know that one.
But Krampus, now I got to go look up Krampus.
Levite said on a live stream today, according to Matt L., that he is going to contact Modern Debate and ask to schedule a polygamy debate with G-Man.
Well, he's going to win on that one technicality only because he would have to, if he were to speak with somebody that has Orthodox Christian values or whatever, you know what I mean? And they knew Greek well, I don't think he could win the argument. But because other people don't know, and then on top of it, he doesn't know, he's using something as an argument that he doesn't know.
But see, here's how we know. I know you were fighting.
You were in that, and you have to admit that's a mess to be in something you don't know. But the dang problem is the guy presenting it doesn't know.
Yeah, but here's the thing: we have 1,000 years. We have, how long's the Bible as we know it been around? 1,700 years now, that has been translated and interpreted a singular way, and now
right.
Our new Messiah, Levite, comes in to change it. So that's what I can rely on, so that when I see the word Mia or Mias, they both mean the same thing.
Either or.
That was the thing, yeah. That was silly that I got into. Was they both mean the same thing? They both mean one. They don't mean first or one of many. They just mean one.
Well, and he's also doing, I'm not saying it can't be useful at times, but he's doing it in reverse. Like he's going back to the Greek from a word and he says, my Bible says, no, that's not how it works. You have to look at the Greek text and then understand the meaning. And so if you have two words, you have to understand the meaning and the context. And the point is, none of us know this. And so he can play this. And so if he gets with G-Man and does the same thing, like, it doesn't make them right. It only means people don't know, including himself. That's the crazy part.
She keeps forgetting the sub Levi. I can't do it.
No, I like Levi, talking with him and stuff, but I'm not sub to him. I don't think. Maybe on this channel, I don't know.
There's a certain attitude that he brings to the conversation that's just very hard for me to listen. It's hard for me to listen to people who are like, I know what's right, and I can't hear anything else. Like, I'm prepared to be wrong on the issue, like what he's talking about. But when somebody comes in after 1,700 years of interpretation and says, mine is the right one now, 1,700 years later.
I've often heard it said, like, I mean, just time and time over, when you're looking at, like, particularly when I spent a little bit of time studying Greek and things, very little, but for me, it was time spent. And the thing that was always pointed out was that if you come up with something new, you're probably wrong, because people who study the languages, they know what you can and can't get away with. Even when I say get away with, I mean, if you have a particular doctrine or such that you want to follow, if you can't get away with it, you can't get away with it. And so if you're coming up with something new, and you're going backwards, like you're looking in concordances and such to see if you can somehow justify what you're saying, well, you're wrong is the whole point.
Let me be Levi's advocate.
Doing it.
If I was Levi's advocate, I would point to exactly Martin Luther and say, well, he came out some 1,200 years after the Bible as we know it was approved, and he came out and totally turned everything upside down, right? And we don't have to do penance, and we don't have to confess to our priest or our pastor that everything's direct with Jesus, and we are saved not by any form of work or what we do, but by faith alone, right? And that was, we're justified by faith. And that was a Martin Luther thing that happened 1,200 years later. What I would say is, I think that why a lot of that came out was there might have been a lot of because that was when the printed Bible began, and other people, the lay people, were able to begin to read it. Most didn't. They relied on the elders, and the elders for quite a long time relied on just the traditions. And so that helps Levi's claim, I guess. But I think, Martin Luther was what, 1500s?
Yeah.
Now we're 500 years later, and we're going to find new revelation in it about marriage. I don't think so.
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
Yeah, there's never an instance where it was a good thing in Scripture. So
I would not say that what he's presenting is impossible. But what I find it highly unlikely, and it's very frustrating listening to someone present it on something that they themselves don't know, and then like he'll call and he talk with somebody with James White, and all they could really say is, well, yeah, in some manuscripts you see Mia and some you see Myas. Well, that didn't answer anything. That didn't answer anything, and he thought that made some difference. It's like, no, you have to know what it means. That's the problem here.
Yeah, but again, like I said, it was stupid of me to even get involved with that. I should have relied on the argument. But anyway,
I don't.
Let's talk about the Christmas.
And I'm sorry if I came across. I apologize if I came across that way, Rob. It's just frustrating. I think he's going to keep using it, and my guess is he'll use that on G-Man. Anybody he gets into a discussion with, he's going to do that.
He's just going to say a strong concordance, and he didn't. You notice how he didn't present it? Like, show me a picture of your concordance that says it's your meaning. He never gave us a link or anything. I think, to me, it was he has some alternate version of it. I don't know.
He was saying he had the 1800 Strongs, whichever. The problem is that if it gives this meaning or that meaning, then you need to know which and why, or if it. and what's it mean in context, and also what did the same person that wrote that section of scripture, you might want to look and see what else did they say in relation to it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I'm going to change the subject. We're going to get back to Christmas and traditions. If I'm going to look to see if my pastor put up a copy of his sermon. I know it's coming if he didn't yet, so maybe that'll be interesting to you, D.B. Cisco. But reading D.B. Cisco's comment, my pastor addressed this issue. He said that most 19th century Americans found Christmas trees an oddity. The first record of one being on display was in the 1830s by the German settlers of Pennsylvania. That's in America, and you're right, but let me tell you how it happened. Because it was Queen Victoria in Old England who followed the tradition of it and put a Christmas tree into the palace. And then what happened from there, because remember, this is England at the time when they made celebration of Christmas, the Protestant majority of Christmas, illegal. And then the Protestants that traveled to the New World, America, did the same. It wasn't until Queen Victoria put the tree into the palace that the English Protestants and Catholics, they all thought, wow, that looks pretty cool, and what a great tradition. We're going to start to do it. And then when they did that, noted American author Washington Irving, and most folks know him as the guy who wrote The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and I know that came out in 1820. But Washington Irving wrote a number of essays about his experience in England and the English celebration of Christmas with Christmas trees and the dinner and the roast. They roasted a boar head. That was the traditional meal that they would eat. It was interesting. I'm glad we don't do that here. We'll just do turkey instead of a pig head. But after Washington Irving started writing, and he became very popular in America, he was American, he wrote about his experiences and the wonder and awe and everything. He loved the tradition and the Christmas tree, that then it started to crop up in the United States. And then ever since then, so we really can credit Washington Irving and his essays about Christmas in England as probably the primary reason why we have Christmas trees and Christmas tree lots today. It's pretty cool. So how about that?
I like Christmas.
I love Christmas. It's a great time. And I loved it when I was a non-believer too.
Yeah. I mean, it's a time that, it's a shame. Some people get really sad because I guess I can understand it. They miss the old Christmases gone by, and you can't bring them back. I kind of miss that too. Like when my grandparents would come over, the ones that had money, not the other family, and like they'd always give me cool gifts. Like one year I got a radio flyer wagon, stuff like that. I'd be like, yeah. My grandparents are coming. And I'd go out and there'd be like this cool wagon or new bike or whatever I'd get, and that was then my other grandparents. Well, you know what though? I had to learn to think of Christmas different than my other grandparents, because then it was more about the spirit of Christmas rather than the coolest gifts.
Yeah, and which was a big letdown for kids, for sure.
What, the spirit of Christmas? Yeah, but when you get old, well, as I was getting older, it meant more and more, and as time went on, now it actually means more, realizing the family time.
Well, that's an interesting thing too. That's the part of the tradition that came out of Germany too, was the idea of gift giving, and that was a Luther tradition that he created with his own children. He would give his own children little gifts that they would get. He also changed it to Christmas Eve, as we know it, December 24th, instead of St. Nicholas, because he said, this isn't about St. Nicholas, it's about Jesus. We're celebrating the birth of Jesus. So we're going to, move it to December 24th, that celebration, the St. Nicholas idea, but instead celebrate Jesus. But he gave gifts to his children on the night of the 24th. And it represented the gift of salvation that Jesus gave us. And then from there, and so it unfortunately, it just as everything else, right? everything else with commercialism, it spins away from that. But I can no longer say that to my Jewish friends that Santa Claus has nothing to do with, at least historically, with Jesus. Historically, it does. In modern way, with commercialism, it doesn't. And the reason I would say that before is because my family celebrated Christmas, even, with my mother being Jewish, we celebrated it because she did. She went to Catholic school, and we didn't talk about Jesus or think about Jesus. It just was a means for our parents to provide us with this great day of excitement.
Your mom went to Catholic school?
My mom went to Catholic school, yeah. When her parents split up when she was very young.
Sorry.
And it was, I guess, the only private school that was local or close to my grandfather's place of work. So he sent her to a Catholic school, so she was trained up by nuns. So she's a little confused when it comes to religion stuff. Because this is an interesting story and an aside about my mother, and then I won't stay on too long. But I remember this is before I became a Christian, and it was when my own parents split up after 30 years of marriage. And my mom sat all of us down to let us know that it was going to happen. And when we were done with that conversation, she asked us all to stand up and to pray. This is my mother, and we didn't do that as a family. And we did. We prayed. She prayed. We all were like a little uncomfortable because it was something that we didn't do. And when my mother ended the prayer, my Jewish mother, she said, "In Jesus' name." And then we all had a huge laugh because we're like, really? What?
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. But I mean, that's why I say my mom, I think it's hard for her to confess that she is a Christian for the same reason that it was difficult for me to when I first, was trying to reason it out back in 2006, was the idea that, it's the tradition of Judaism and the fear that, when you think about all of your relatives that have passed on, that, and particularly those in the Holocaust, right, who were killed, and that they were brutally and wrongfully murdered, and they're going to go and roast in hell after that experience. And you have to try and rationalize that as a Jewish person, and then make the hurdle and take the jump and go, okay, I guess I'll be a Christian. And that would, it was difficult for me, and I think it's more difficult for my mother.
Yeah, sometimes people will try to present Hitler as Christian. I just think, well, that's crazy,
Well, he could.
Ideas. He have had ideas here and there, but he had lots of ideas.
But that's the whole thing. If you talk to Bill, I've had conversation, I think, with Bill, or somebody like Bill, that will say, well, if Hitler, right before he took the gun to his head, he said, "I confess I was a horrible sinner. I repent. I changed my mind from my sin. It was a horrible thing that I did. Lord, I'm so sorry. Lord, I need you. I believe in you and what you did for me. Please save me." Bang. Then he's in heaven. And everyone that he killed that didn't know Jesus is roasting in hell. And I
don't even know that a person could do that. I think if a person didn't die right, I don't know. God's a judge. I don't understand it.
Well, that's how I resolved it. The way I resolved it was that, as a God believer, as a Jesus believer, God is good. God is perfect. Whatever God ends up doing is the right thing. And I trust that when I go to the great place, wherever that is, heaven, that the promise is there's no tears and no sadness there. So I trust in that. That says a lot to me. And I leave it at that. I don't think that if I had relatives roasting away, that I would be able to be joyous about it and not have fear.
Comments. Daniel.
So Daniel says, Daniel says,
Daniel always does this. Come on. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think there's a place in the world that he would have been able to go. Like some of the other guys could be hidden because they wore hats all the time, and they could. But I think even if you shaved Hitler's stash, It'd be very, very difficult to
Not
hide.
necessarily. I think it's very possible that Hitler did get away and Elvis killed him.
You know what? You make a good point.
That's what I think.
It ultimately Elvis did. The notorious Nazi hunter Elvis Presley. Yeah, but see, there are sad things. This is why Christmas is sad, and it's but like you said, you had grandparents, and I'm certain that your grandparents aren't around anymore, and mine are not now, and those memories are hurt. My parents still are, and if, as Sister Sunshine said, her uncle died on Christmas, that would make Christmas a pretty sad thing.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I don't. My mom used to think like different times of the year she would get upset if somebody died, whatever, at a certain time, and maybe it's a good thing I have like virtually no memory for when what happened, even yesterday, so. But I don't remember. Oh, the Jehovah's Witnesses do Christmas?
No.
Well, okay.
Well, do a celebration, right?
I already told this story before, probably a couple of times. But can I tell you kind of a funny story? You can tell me if you already heard it.
Sure.
And so the one year, hard to believe, but money was tight, and so my wife and I, we were in this apartment, and massive snowstorm hit. And so anyhow, going down the road, and they closed the place up because the snow was so bad. They were selling trees. They put signs up that said free. So I grabbed one and tied it down on my roof, whatever, and took it home. My brother happened to go by, and he knew the money was tight. And he saw the trees were free, so he grabbed one too, and brought it over and gave it to us. So we had 2 Christmas trees. Well, I had my parents' decorations, and my wife had her decorations and such, and so we decorated both the trees, put them on the end, each on the end of the couch. Well, the Jehovah's Witnesses happened to come by, and I invited them in. I couldn't help it. I always do, So I invite them in, and they said, well, why do you have 2 Christmas trees? I said, well, one for her to bow before and one for me, Anyhow, come on, you have to admit that's, and it's hard to make a Jehovah's Witness laugh, I always noticed, but they did laugh at that one.
They did.
Yeah, I could never get them to laugh hardly, and
did you take them a cake then and ask them to blow out the candles though? That would have been
No, I don't know.
Give them some balloons.
Yeah,
that'd be nice, like to have a cake and then celebrate something. Like, I'm celebrating you guys coming into my house. We're gonna sing to you. He's a jolly good fellow, and then you're gonna blow out the candles, and here's a balloon saying congratulations.
I did go to Jehovah's Witness. What do they call it? I can't think. It's not church. I don't think they call it. I forget what they call it. Anyhow, I went to it once with a guy who was a mechanic, and he rebuilt transmissions. And I got to know the guy, and so I went. And when they passed the wine around, like you're not supposed to take a drink of it. That's only for the 144,000. Apparently, you would know if you were one of them, I guess. Anyhow, then afterwards, though, I followed like what Walter Martin said to do, and that was to pray in Jesus' name. Like for him to come out of the Jehovah's Witnesses and see the true Jesus. I kind of feel bad in the way I did that, but I guess it was the right thing. I don't know. He didn't invite
me. Did you do it out loud?
Oh, when we were sitting in the car after we walked out. I didn't do it in the service or anything.
Yeah, I think in the service, it would be, although, I'm not Bill and Sam, they would call out that sin.
Would they? Maybe.
Yeah, they would call it out.
I went into
they'd say for good solid preaching, go to pornogirls.net. I
went in and they did give me an emphatic diaglot, and that was hard to get. There were certain things I got at Jehovah's Witness meeting house, wherever I forget what they call it, but anyhow,
the Kingdom Hall.
Kingdom Hall, that's right. Yep, yeah, and so I got that. That was pretty cool. Different things, I wanted when. I don't know why I was into that when I was younger. My mom, I probably told you this story before. My mom was briefly involved with the Jehovah's Witnesses when I was in 1st grade,
for a very brief amount of time because she answered the door, and they encouraged her to go to a Billy Graham event at Dodger Stadium. Actually,
Why?
that was a big deal among every religious person, including the Jehovah's Witnesses. They were
That's really bizarre.
They did, and so
That's hard to believe.
we went. I think she did. I kind of feel like I was there too, though, but I don't remember like the actual event or
That's like a major screw up for the Jehovah's Witnesses to do that.
Would it be? I mean, I don't know.
Oh yeah, man. Because I mean,
Not
Billy Graham's going to teach you to believe in Jesus and that kind of thing.
But he was preaching for Jesus, which is what they are. It's just they would. I think that there were a lot of people.
But their answer, it had to be people teaching outside of the teachings of the Kingdom Hall, would be my guess, or the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. Only
I have to ask my mom.
You're supposed to put your faith in what they're teaching, because I mean they're going to tell you Jesus was not God; he was Michael the Archangel, whatever, that kind of stuff, and just odd, isn't it?
But I don't remember Billy Graham preaching so much on the divinity of Christ as much as the repent and believe, right? Sin.
Yeah.
So I think that they probably bought in on the idea of identifying people as sinful and that they need Jesus. And then they would tell people to go to their church afterwards to get the whole story, right?
Yeah, maybe. It just seems like there could be some problems. I'd have to go back and look and see what Billy Graham taught. It just seems like it would be.
It was a huge event. Anytime Billy Graham, especially if you come to Los Angeles, it was a big deal for, I think, anyone that said that they believed in Christ, just based on the type of guy. And I think it comes down to the fact that most people who believe in those things at the time really didn't know everything. It's kind of like if you talk to a large group of Mormons, I think, that even they don't really understand everything that they believe.
I would think that when you talk to Mormons that aren't real involved in it, it would be possible they didn't know some of the teachings. I think that's more bizarre things, I would think. I'd like to hope that's the case. I think it is, but
yeah.
What I always thought was kind of tough was I can't think of his name right now. He was the guy that was running for president. It was Mormon. A couple of times he ran.
Romney.
Yeah, and I think, well, maybe he just doesn't know, And then after talking with different people and seeing his position within the Mormon Church, it's like, it's impossible for him not to.
Well, he was a higher up, so he would have to know. Like it was a friend, a father of one of the kids that I coached on a Little League team a couple of years ago. He's high up in the Mormon Church. He invited me to go to Dodger Stadium with him, and I bought tickets. Here's an exposed Rob Reed video. I guess I supported the Mormon Church by going to a Dodger game, but I did it as a matter of friendship because I like the guy. He knows that I'm involved with the church, and he invited me to go to the Mormon Church, and I said, I'm sorry. I'm already affiliated with the church, and I believe in what I believe. And so we had that little conversation. But I know that he knows everything.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's hard for me to think that they know about celestial wives and that kind of thing. But I guess, it. What I have noticed, though, is like with Jehovah's Witnesses, they typically seem stricter the way they live generally, at least what I have noticed with people I've met. Obviously not all, but they seem like good people, though. But I think in general, Mormons, I don't know, I typically like Mormons.
I don't think I've ever had a problem with Mormon people. And I
have disagreements theologically, but when it comes down to just the individual person, it seems like I usually, like them and I respect how they try to live, But That doesn't mean I want to be a Mormon but
Yeah, in the same way with Amish that you probably see a lot in your neck of the woods. I don't want to be an Amish.
No.
Pretty good life. They're good people.
I guess I mean reality. I mean, to me, as Amish are cultish too, but they do seem like decent people. I mean, I have to admit though, if I was going to go motorcycle riding or play around or something, I'd rather hang out with Mormons than Amish. Though I think when it comes to like enjoying life, I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know. It'd be pretty fun to mud ride in a horse and buggy, right? Rather than a mini bike. Think about the danger factor. Why don't you try jumping a hill with a horse and
Gosh,
buggy?
you know what? I've been hanging around with that Levite guy too much because I'm beginning to think like, well, what other kind of stuff do they do like in the buggy? I mean,
With just one woman, right?
you're going to take the motorcycles out of it, and then they might even play guitar and stuff.
Amish are not.
That's right. Mormons
like
are
polygamists, right?
No, they probably aren't. So, I mean, in that sense, it'd probably be okay.
Matt says they're big in the dog breeding business.
I like dogs, but
so maybe there's a lot of dog breeding happening in the buggies.
Yeah, well, they aren't notorious so for like breeding the best of the breed. I don't think so.
We've got 9 people here, so that means backstage is certainly here. So backstage, here's a link for you.
Hello, backstage.
Yeah, I won't be here for too much longer though. But now to end on back on the subject that I put in the subject line. Do you think that your YouTube channels are going to go bye-bye tomorrow, Bruce?
What's this?
Tomorrow's the deadline. Tomorrow's the first day of the new YouTube policy. Terms of service.
So they're like going to shut my channel down and stuff?
Well, people, conspiracy-minded people believe that, including some smart people, because Steven Crowder made reference to it today. He didn't have a live show. Maybe he was being sarcastic. I have a feeling he was not.
Who's Steven Crowder?
You don't know Steven Crowder?
Mm-mm.
Wow. He's a young conservative. You'd love him. Look up Steve. Do you know the guy that does the Change My Mind stuff?
Mm-mm.
Like Thanksgiving is not racist, Change My Mind, and he goes to colleges and he sits down with people, with liberal kids, and talks to them and tries to have them convince him of their liberal side.
Wow, no.
I just gave you some. You're gonna be. I won't see you on YouTube for a long time, maybe 2 weeks.
I don't know.
I can't believe you don't know Steven Crowder. You'll love Steven Crowder. I don't know.
I try to kind of sort of pay attention to both sides.
Yeah, you haven't heard of Louder with Crowder?
No. I watch Fox News and then shut everything else off. He's
been on there a number of times. Like one of the things he did.
Well, I don't watch it that much, but here and there. When I do watch news, I have to be honest. I do typically watch Fox. However, if it's something I'm really wondering about, which is often enough lately, I will go and look at MSNBC and CBS, ABC, whatever. I'll look at. I try to weigh it out as best I can. But holy heck, is this stuff lately? It's time for you to go. You said in a couple minutes, but I have to admit, Rob, maybe you see it differently. This thing lately with the impeachment deal, I'm finding it to be very confusing. One side says they have them. The other side says, well, there's nothing really there. I don't know what the heck to think.
Trying to view it as unbiased as I possibly can. I do believe it's a waste of time, but I do believe it has teeth. And the Republican response, well, one of the things they say is that we're rushing through this. Right. And the impeachment hearings have gone on, I think it's at the 76th day. And the Bill Clinton impeachment hearings went on 73 days in total. Mm-hmm. So I can't, that claim you can throw out on that basis alone. Okay. That So you can't say that it's been, but the one thing that has teeth with the Republicans is the fact that they were not allowed to bring in witnesses that they wanted to bring in to
Right.
counter. The
That was
fact of the
weird.
matter is, yeah, it's proven for all intents, and this is just, I'm trying to be unbiased as a lawyer. It's proven that what Trump did was a quid pro quo. The question is whether, I mean, it's not a crime, so it's not that he's being impeached for a crime per se.
But how's it proven that he did that? Because I mean, it was apparently two different conversations.
No, it's the conversation alone. It's basically, if I give you a timeline, there was one senator that did a nice little timeline there, which basically this was all in July, and it was like July 10th, and it's not exact dates, but July 10th of this year, give or take, 2019, the money that had been allocated to be sent to the Ukraine to assist them in their independence, which Russia was very unhappy with and didn't want us to do, was due. We were supposed to pay them July 10th or something. July 20th, or in around that time, the letter is sent, or the conversation Trump has with Zelensky, the Ukrainian new president, when he says, "I need you to do me a favor." And this was after it was due. And on the same day, no, I think I'm a little skewed. That was the last thing, but in between, it was due. It was not given out when it was supposed to, and then it was then denied. It was then decided, like, we told Ukraine, we're not giving it to you, and then Trump came out and said which amounts to the quid pro quo, which is, I need you to do me a favor.
Oh wow, okay.
And so the timeline.
I haven't heard it put that clearly though. Usually it's just, I mean, honestly, when I'm listening to Pelosi and different people go on about it, I don't usually hear them saying it the way you just said it.
It's because they have to go through these incredible motions, and it gets really silly and stupid. And I view it as a waste of time because we know the Senate is not gonna agree, and the trial's supposed to happen in the Senate ultimately, and it's not going to.
But the last I heard, they were after him because of what he did with Biden, that he asked them.
That's what it's all about. That's the
Biden.
quid pro quo. The quid pro quo basically means you do this for me, and then we'll do this for you. And
is that what you're talking about? I thought you were talking about. Wait, I thought you were talking about the issue of. I mean, it was something more important. In other words,
no, the quid pro quo. Everything that it's about is the money that was supposed to go to the Ukraine.
Yeah,
and that was denied the Ukraine because the favor that Donald Trump wanted was for them to investigate the Bidens.
But the weird part about it is, if I'm not mistaken, here's the truly weird part about it. The very thing that he wanted them to investigate had to do with Biden doing the same thing, or am I wrong?
Well, that's the claim, but there's no proof to that effect. No proof has been brought up that was the case. I mean, you know that there's nepotism. I mean, we can't deny that. If we're reasonable, the reason that Biden
is when Biden did a similar thing about what did he say? If you don't get rid of this guy or something, I'm not going to give you this amount of money or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that guy happened to be a lawyer that was dealing with his son, who apparently wasn't even trained in the things where he was getting paid. Or am I hearing it wrong?
Yeah, I think you're hearing it wrong. It wasn't that the guy was dealing with the son. It was that there was corruption. So, of course there was corruption there. So Biden participated in a threat to the Ukraine where they had to work harder at stopping corruption within their legal department, having nothing to do with his son. So it was a policy thing. So the difference between what Biden did is it's a policy thing. It's one thing if Trump just said, we need you to investigate corruption. There's nothing there. It becomes a policy thing. But in the transcript conversation, it references investigation of, at the time, Trump's biggest political rival on the left. So the withholding of funds was not because of a policy.
The lawyer that they were looking into, though, who was involved in this, you don't think that lawyer was going after Biden's son by chance?
No. And if he was, I mean, it might have been in a different situation. I mean, I have to look into that further.
Yeah, that's a weird deal.
There's so much misinformation that's out there. There's a lot of misinformation that
that's what I mean. And so if I listen, I'll tell you, though, this, for whatever the heck it's worth, it sure gives new meaning to all the word, the comical way of calling something alternate facts.
Yeah.
It's become a reality because you go, well, which fact?
GY6 says his son actually had what the mob calls a no-show job. And I don't disagree with that. I would say so does Ivanka. And so does, well, and maybe not her husband as much because he's done a lot of stuff, traveling stuff. But Ivanka, you know, she had a seat in the White House and she would go a little bit traveling, but she would just hobnob with Trudeau and stare at him with drool running down her mouth. And that was clearly a nepotism job as well. Was Ivanka Trump the most qualified to be in the White House and serve as an advisor? That could be debated, I guess. I would say that it was because she was a family member and as a way that she could get some money from the government. I'm sure she was paid for it, and she probably still is. So nepotism happens. There's no doubt about that. And so is that a lousy thing that, that happened? Yeah, it's totally lousy. But that's the way of the world. What becomes problematic is if Biden participated in, let's say, if Biden called the Ukrainian president at the time, and it wasn't Zelensky, and he said, I think it was around the 2016 election, if memory serves, and if he said, I need you to investigate these claims that Trump was in a hotel room with some prostitutes getting peed on, do me a favor, then Biden would be in the same kind of trouble.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're getting at.
So that's the difference. And maybe that's just because it's smart politics, right? Maybe Biden did have some idea of doing something illegal, but he played it right. And Trump could have played it right on White House phones that get transcribed. He could have played it right by having his buddy, as he did, Mr. Giuliani, going over there and saying everything outside of, and they were saying it in private. Hey, Zelensky, here's what we want you to do. Rather than Trump on a White House line that gets transcribed, telling Zelensky what he wants to do and revealing a quid pro quo that was self-serving. Quid pro quo, as the guy who's the acting Secretary of State, Mulvaney, I think is his name, when he came out and he said, right after all this stuff came out in September, he came out and said, like, it's just much ado about nothing. Quid pro quos happen all the time. He's right. But the problem with this quid pro quo is that it was self-serving to the president on taxpayer dime.
No, suppose so they do get Trump kicked out of there. And what if they decide they don't really like Pence and they find that he was involved in some things and they kick him out too? Then who would be our president?
As of right now, I think it'd be Mulvaney.
Oh, would?
Secretary of State.
Oh, okay. So Nancy Pelosi wouldn't get into it somehow or anything?
No. I think that she's like fourth or fifth on the list. It's not going to be Pelosi. Somebody could feel free to correct me, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't go.
The Clintons come in and take those other people out, then I guess if she wanted to.
Yeah, they have to come and kill them. That's the next thing. But the truth is that this is nothing's going to happen. They're going to impeach Trump just like Clinton got impeached. The difference between Clinton and Trump is that Trump, Clinton was in his second term and was done. There was no political backlash for him. other than losing his law license, I guess. And that's not political. For Trump, he's up for re-election. And
Yeah,
I think
so.
my personal feeling is it's all going to work in Trump's favor.
How?
Because all he needs to do is play it as the Democrats wasting time, energy, resources, cash, not doing anything, the do-nothing Congress, the do-nothing Democratic Congress, and look at the economy. And if he runs on those two things,
you know, and unless they're playing things really wrong, and maybe I'm seeing things wrong, but it does appear to me when they were showing like the economy throughout the world, they don't seem to be showing much on China. I did notice that. But when you look at Japan, you look through Europe, Canada, and then you look at the States, am I seeing it right or wrong? I mean,
China's hurting. China's hurting, but here, so are we,
really?
except for the fact where we're hurting the most is, you know, the biggest exports I think that we have to China is our farming system. And somebody can correct me if it's different, but this is how I describe it to my wife, because I don't necessarily think that everything Trump is doing is great. I'm happy with the economy. My family's doing well under this economy. But that being said, it's kind of like, you know, my family, we have a lot of credit cards that we don't use. Not a lot, but let's say 4 or 5. And they have pretty sizable limits where I can go out right now and I could buy a couple Teslas and I could do all this stuff and I could live super large, but I've got to pay it back.
Bad
right?
idea.
I'm borrowing. And so our deficit, our debt is going through the roof because Trump has cut taxes on the rich and we are spending a mess load of money for this economy stuff to happen. And in particular, as it relates to Chinese tariffs, we are giving a ton of money to farmers to keep them going. And I don't see how we're going to get that back. So there's a part of me as a guy who doesn't like Trump, who wants Trump to get reelected. Because I'll tell you what's going to happen, I think. The bubble's going to burst, no matter who's there, starting in about 2022. Where as Malcolm X would say, the chickens are coming home to roost, where the bill is going to have to get paid that we're borrowing on. And if Trump hasn't fixed the tariffs and the issues that are coming out in that regard, we keep borrowing money and our debt keeps going like crazy, sky high, all-time high. And he ran on a platform where he was going to reduce that.
If
trouble.
Actually,
I want him to get reelected is what I'm saying. I want him to.
If investing properly, if by chance people were investing or using money well, then and they were making more than what their interest rate's going to be to pay it back. In the end, if they're ahead, then maybe we'd be okay. But unfortunately, if I'm not mistaken, the last time we really crashed, weren't people like out buying all these Harleys and all kinds of wild stuff and buying big houses and
houses.
Yeah, like houses. My point is they'd have houses and they'd go buy a big dog chopper, whatever the heck it was, for 60, 80,000. They'd have a Ferrari sitting out there or a Porsche, whatever, and this and that. And next thing you know, I remember talking with a guy who said it was a distributor, and he was telling me how, like Guitar Center, some of these big places were telling him how guys were coming in, with like Martins and old Fenders and stuff, and selling them for like, 500 or a couple $1,000, whatever it was, like insanely cheap for what it was. And they'd go out and he said they'd drive off in a Ferrari and stuff. And you'd be like, what the heck's going on here?
Yeah, but particularly with the mortgages, it was the mortgage crisis that killed us the last time. And who knows what's happening right now. They were giving mortgages out so freely on wishful thinking.
That was bad. But we also are seeing this year, and maybe it has nothing to do with it, but when you look at that new Corvette that came out, I think we're talking like $60,000, $80,000. That's amazing to see that coming out of the U.S. for that kind of money.
I love that car. Yeah,
time will tell. I think there'll be some, we'll call them glitches with it to begin with. I think, but when
Good.
you get ironed out, and even maybe there won't be much wrong with it, but I think it's pretty amazing we're doing that. I mean,
Yeah, well,
it shows that it could really help GM. And let's say they're profitable, they start building more and better things. That would be a cool thing to see.
well, under Obama, somebody asked what Obama did. Obama reduced the deficit. It was on the way. The economy was beginning to thrive by doing what any president, more likely a smart guy, would have done anyway. I think George Bush would have done it when he saved the banks. Obama, when he first started, Obama inherited a nightmare economy, and Obama corrected the course.
The one thing I'll say,
whether or not it was due to him, it happened under his watch. The economy got better under his watch.
One thing I do know, though, that Bush said it was interesting, it was only a few weeks after he was in, he knew that things were heading for trouble. I mean, he knew it was bad already. He walked into something that he saw as bad to begin with.
In this country, when you cut taxes substantially on the rich, we're going to get hurt. We depend on that unless we're producing. And we're not producing enough. We buy more outside. So that's where Trump is right. The problem is,
well, he's trying to bring production into our country.
He is.
That's what he wants to do.
Arms. And in the twisting of the arms, that's the whole thing. I hope that it's going to work. It hasn't yet. Trump has done what Obama had to do with the banks to the farmers. Now, banks get money. They deal with money. Farmers deal with production. And are the farmers going to be able to pay back the money like the banks were able to? Here's the funny thing, because people talk about how socialist Obama was. What do you call it when the government pays farmers to continue to operate at a loss?
Well, it's hope, I guess. I don't know.
Well, hopeful socialism is what I would call it.
Yeah.
We're paying tax out. We're giving, right? We're writing checks. I got property taxes coming now. I got to pay them. I better get home and pay them. I do tomorrow. But we pay taxes.
Watch 6.
Our money is going, it's money that I could use to, buy a Tesla that I have to give to farmers so they can continue to operate.
Well, we need food, though. I remember way years ago, a buddy mine used to come by, and I was like, gosh, that was like 25, 27 years ago, whatever. But this guy, I remember he was so proud of his job working at Reese's, and he was making like $20 an hour, but they were complaining. He was complaining that, about their benefits and everything. And, and eventually, if I'm not mistaken, I think they went to Mexico or something with a lot of it. Not positive. I'm pretty sure things went bad, though. And that's kind of what gets me today, though, is that people, it's relative to where you live, but, and what your cost of living is. But it's just in some parts of the country, to flip burgers for $15 an hour, man. I mean, we can't make money that way. I don't know. You know what I mean?
You can. In-N-Out, you can. In-N-Out pays people pretty well. I've told AJ, I said, when you get a job, man, aim for In-N-Out, because they pay good money for kids. I mean, they make great money.
Yeah, but you're in California too, though. What I'm saying is, if you live in an area that's not quite as expensive to live, and yet people still want the $15-20 an hour, it's like, well, you can't. A company can't stay in business doing that.
Yeah,
it's hard.
All I can say is, as an American, I want everything. I want Trump to succeed.
But people have to have it. My opinion is, and this might sound crazy, but I think the American people have to want to see America great again. And I think that won't be used, if I'm not mistaken. I think somebody bought Make America Great Again. I think they bought the rights to it, that they can't use that again.
Oh, I doubt it.
You for
I mean,
sure.
for one, it's not trademark. I mean, if it's can be trademarked by anyone, then it's not unique enough to be trademarked. But if it could be anyone, it would be the Reagan estate because he used it in the 80s. So
I thought that it was
it was
maybe I heard it
trademarked.
wrong. I thought somebody actually and it could have been fake news coming from the Republicans.
I imagine that it's fake.
Steyer buys Keep America Great domain name Politico. I don't know.
See, Matt L says Obamacare ruined healthcare as we know it. I disagree, Matt. And what's ruined healthcare as we know it, I mean, Obamacare in theory would work just fine. And as I said before, it's pure capitalism. The naysayers, the people that had no knowledge, but they wanted to condemn Obama, they would call it socialized medicine. And it was the farthest thing from it because it required people to buy insurance. It was as capitalist as you possibly could get, relying on young people to buy it, young people to have it. It depended on the healthy, so that the people that needed the health care were going to be able to get it paid for. I am a proponent. I mean, I'm a proponent of the socialist aspect. I think that there should be Medicare for all. So there you go. So I wish Obamacare was Medicare for all, like they have in most civilized third world countries, with the option to have the private option if you wanted to use it, and certainly not to penalize people. Well, I don't know how that would work. I mean, the public option would have to be paid for with taxes, and I don't know. But I think that we should have health care for all. Not for illegals, but I think we should have health care for every American, and I think that it should be. And Matt L says socialism. That's right. Much like public school and fire and police and army.
What would Japan be? What kind of government does Japan have?
Well, they still have an emperor or something, right?
Yeah, I don't know. But I know that when it's I don't know much about this stuff, honestly, but I do wonder, though, when I look through like Eastern Europe and Russia, whatever, and Czechoslovakia, Romania, whatever, I often wonder, and even China until recently, I mean, those people had basically nothing. You look at their machine work and stuff's all crude and rough. I mean, it's crude stuff. I mean, they can barely make a car or a bicycle right. I mean, not to be ignorant, but I mean, look at their watches. I mean, anything that people have, it's a shame. It's very crude and rough.
True, they're hurting right now. Japan's hurting.
But it's always been that way. I mean, look at like say you wanted to buy a cheap wristwatch that seemed rugged and military. Well, you can buy one of those old Russian watches for like next to nothing because they were.
This is what Matt L says.
Like, why is that, though? I mean, why did America make things so great? Why did Germany? Why did France? Why did the British? Like, why do we make great stuff? Even Japan. But
because the enterprising, that's where Trump fails. Because Trump feels that people need to be on paper great before they get here. And I would say what made this country great was hardworking people who wanted to better their lives. And we had so many of those people coming in that innovation thrived by bringing people in to forge their own way.
Well, if that
wasn't because of who was here already.
People who want to make things great, that's great, and they want to work hard, that's great. But if we have people coming here that just want to live off everyone else because we have great handouts for people who don't want to work,
well, we can't do that.
Yeah, you can't do that. You can't get ahead that way.
I'm with you there. So, but Matt L says government healthcare has failed in other countries. It really hasn't. There's quality of care problems. You're going to get that in the public sector. But what Matt L is saying, the problem with the healthcare system here, the problem with why Obamacare wasn't as effective, well, one of the reasons is because Trump has blown it out of the water. He wasn't able to remove it, but he effectively did by stopping subsidies, which is the whole thing. That's the whole reason that it works, is people who couldn't afford it could get it, and it was carried by other people that bought insurance. But I don't want to go too deep into that. But healthcare should be private sector. That's why prices are so high. So in order for us to correct the heart, I don't think that in our country people should be bankrupted because they needed to survive or live or get emergency care when you're older because something bad happened to you. I just think that's bad. And I think that eventually this country will go socialized medicine, and I think that we will be better for it and people will be happy with it. With options to have private doctors for the rich, that's fine, but I think as a basic right of your existence, because we are such a wealthy country, we should have it. It's the priority of that is equal to me of having a strong military. So those are the focuses that we should have. And we get that
rough area. You know, I don't know what to say. You know.
Yeah, well, Matt says when business competes, consumers benefit, and it's not true. Because what happens is they pay a ton of money to insurance, and if they don't have insurance, because it costs a lot of money to get insurance, the doctors are charging huge amounts of money. It's the insurance companies that are able to negotiate. So my mom, for instance, when she was sick in 2004, her intensive care unit bill for a week was $500,000.
Well, to me, I mean, I do think that is going on. I mean, I think the doctors charge more than they should to get what they want from the insurance company.
Years ago. What do you think it costs today?
Yeah, there is a problem. I don't know the answer. Yeah, I don't know.
With a socialized system that has set pricing, and I would say insurance pricing, because with insurance, that $500,000 bill is really like $15,000 max.
Right. I mean, I think the only way that could possibly work is the insurance companies would have to be grabbed by the neck. Yeah, they have to be controlled.
The system that you create.
Yeah, they would have to be straightened out. You know, I mean,
and that's how Obamacare would have worked if it stayed. Like if it wasn't changed in Obamacare, it would have worked. But to me, it wouldn't have worked as well as a socialized system. It's not socialized. What it ends up benefiting is it ends up benefiting the private company insurance industry, who, interestingly enough, were like, no, we don't like this. And it's like, no, secretly they did. Of course they did, because it made, and Matt says doctors hated Obamacare. Yeah, it did. And let me tell you why. I can tell you that mine did. Here's why I know about Obamacare. I was on Obamacare, not for 1 year. I tried it out, not because we needed, we weren't in need, because it applied to everyone, but because my health insurance at the time was less than if I did it private through my wife's company, who she worked. So I got health insurance through my wife, and we discovered that if I went through Obamacare, we would save $6,000 a year. And I didn't get subsidized. I didn't get any special benefit. That was just the cost for me to get it. Now, it was lousy because I had this doctor. There were very few doctors that would take it on because they wanted to get paid more, right? But if it becomes a nationalized system where they're required, and this is just what it is, then all doctors are subject to it. It was because not all doctors had tacked onto it. And if more people joined it, as would have happened if the subsidies continued and Donald Trump didn't stop them, it would have built up and built up and built up. It would have been a very decent system in providing many millions more who were uninsured of getting insurance.
I mean, maybe this sounds, I don't know, because I don't know enough about it, but I'm wondering, what if insurance companies were to pay doctors what they actually wanted to be paid? You know,
they go out of business.
What, the insurance companies?
Yes.
Well, I see that would be a problem, and they want to charge people more. However, if that were the case, and say the doctors said, well, we would be happy with this much, I mean, this would be enough. Let's say the overall, if doctors weren't so needed, maybe it could happen. You know, and I'm just thinking, like, when I was a kid, I realized there's inflation, but it did seem kind of like you could pay. You could actually, without insurance, sometimes you could just pay for the visit, you know. Or nowadays, I don't
Yeah,
know,
but
you couldn't do that, man.
it just
You'd have to.
doctors aren't going to agree to less money. You know, the truth is with the actual doctors, it's really the industry. It's like it's the facilities. It's a huge industry, and I have a friend who's a surgeon in Orange County, and I've asked him questions with regards to, I don't know how it came up, but it was with regards to what a certain procedure cost, right? Because he's a surgeon, and he goes, I don't know, I have no idea what it costs, because he just gets the money, right?
Right.
He gives himself a salary, and he owns the business that he has.
Plus, you look at how much a doctor needs for their own insurance.
And that's always a factor. The first thing that doctors go to when they talk about the high cost of medicine is they go, the high cost of protecting ourselves from lawyers. It's the first thing they go to.
I mean, honestly, my father was pretty ill, and I remember him. He was in a nursing home because my mother wanted to be there. And anyhow, he stayed there a bit, and my dad looked what.
Well, I'm just saying, Matt just said insurance companies are to blame, not the healthcare structure. That's totally wrong, Matt.
But
totally wrong.
All I want to say, at least in my life, my dad said, he said he started to bleed internally, and he said, I told him they gave me too much Coumadin. Well, it was a matter of days or less than a week, whatever. He was in the emergency room in the hospital, and within a matter of days or so after that, whatever, it wasn't long, he died, and so they screwed up, I mean, my brother and I, we talked a lot about it. Reality is, he could have lived for another month if they wouldn't. It appears they screwed up. He might have made it another month or two, maybe.
We had that, we had that interesting situation with my grandmother.
So what are you going to do? Go sue him? It's like,
well, we had that. I mean, because there's so much that comes out with that. We had that situation with my grandmother. My grandmother, essentially, at a young age, she was only 73, I think. I consider that young.
My dad was 6.
She was in a convalescent home because she was having some mental issues. And while she was in one of these homes, she developed bed sores that developed into sepsis that killed her. Now, my mother and her did not have a good relationship, and she was her only child. And so all these factors came to play. It's like, Mom, and I'm a personal injury attorney, and I was at the time that my grandmother died. And it's going to come up. It's like, this place clearly made a mistake. But one, she was in this place because she was having mental problems big time. So her quality of life was already bad. Like, it wasn't like she was losing a lot of earnings. So all these issues come up. And two, their relationship was very, very volatile and not good. And so all those things come out in a lawsuit, right? So you're just money grubbing. You didn't get along with your mother. Somebody makes a mistake. You could have taken care of her at home, because my parents had they had money. They had enough to probably hire a private nurse. And
my
she
dad
didn't
want to do that. He refused, which I think was because of my mom, quite honestly. But yeah, that stuff gets complicated,
So it does. And so it's but in California, I've told you before, there are statutes that limit it. There's already tort reform, and that's extremely unfair. We talked about that. I know I did once. If you go in to get your right leg amputated and they mark the wrong one, and they amputate your good leg, the left leg, the maximum amount you can get in pain and suffering is $250,000.
Well, I think when they make a major mistake, yes, I understand it. But I think in situations, I think there's a lot of people that are hungry for money, no matter how much they have, and they're just going to sue. I think we live in a sue crazy country in some ways. I understand there's certain issues. Although you're a lawyer, I shouldn't be telling you this. You're not going to send me that book. No, I'm very serious. So I think it's obviously needed. You need lawyers for things that are wrong to be taken care of. Like if they mix your leg, or took your heart out when they're not supposed to, or something.
Yeah. I mean, there's some that are a little easier, but it always comes down to damages, and there are these extrinsic things that come into play that if it could be embarrassing and even worse than the death itself emotionally for people. So, yeah, no, the $250,000 cap is ridiculous. It is because it's called the MICRA statute, was passed somewhere around 1978. The law that created the cap on medical malpractice, pain and suffering, is 41, 42 years old.
But don't you think our whole society, though, is somewhat that way? I mean, when I look at places where we used to go swimming, and now you drive by those places and they're all fenced off and you can't go in there anymore, along creeks and cliffs because somebody owned that property. And of course, if somebody gets hurt, they're going to sue the people who own it, or, you know what I mean? Do you notice that? Like, people are more worried, though, that they're going to get sued because of some kid or whatever gets hurt there, like a kid takes a skateboard and goes out and they'll say, oh, no, can't ride in our parking lot. Sorry. But why? Well,
that's interesting. That goes to a Jordan Peterson thing that I won't jump into that. Jordan Peterson says, if you see kids that are doing those things, you shouldn't stop them. So,
but if you own the property,
yeah, you're worried.
And some moron's going to sue you just because you allowed them. What do you do? You
make sure that you have insurance. That's why there's high cost of insurance to protect yourself.
But this is why I believe it's we the people that have to change. It's we the people that have to make America great. It's we the people that have to stop suing each other for our own stupidity. It's just, I don't know.
I'm with you there. People. Back to insurance companies. Matt, Elle, and I are going to agree to disagree, but let me explain to you. I mean, let me agree with you to some extent, Matt. Insurance companies drive up the cost.
This is complicated.
No, it's not. They do drive up the cost. And the reason they drive up the cost is because they pay so little to the doctors. So the doctors, and I'll tell you, it happens in my industry. I expect it. A part of my job as a personal injury attorney when I represent people is I get them medical treatment if they don't have health insurance, for instance. I have a list of doctors, many doctors I've dealt with in the Southern California area who will do medical work on what's called a lien basis, which means they get my client better. And then when we get a settlement, usually based on their medical bill, I negotiate that bill with them. And so the average negotiation is usually about 50% in most cases, the majority of cases. So let's say a chiropractor has a $6,000 bill. I usually, target resolution of that medical bill for like $3,000. And that usually is how it all goes down. And it would be a better world. So this is where, doctors and insurance can meld together in a socialized system where we have a system where certain procedures cost X amount of dollars and there's no negotiation. Doctor charges X, insurance pays X. Rather than doctor charges a huge amount because they know insurance is going to pay less, and the reason they charge so huge is so they can negotiate to get a higher amount. They charge $500,000, knowing they're going to be lucky to get $45,000, but because if they charged $100,000, they know they'd have no chance to get $45,000. So it's the same way, when I negotiate cases. If I have a case that I think is worth $7,500, I'm probably in there to start for it could be upwards of $50,000. And the reason for that is so that, even the adjuster goes, look what I did. The insurance, the attorney asked for so much money and I have a win. It's so that both sides feel like they've got a win, right? That's how negotiation usually goes. But if we have a socialized system where just X dollars, doctor bills, insurance pays, and there's no push and pull of high bills and high costs. It is just what it is. And I'd say the best standard that we can use is the insurance standards that they have now, what the doctors already get paid. And if we use that and just say, rather than negotiate and play these stupid games where doctors are inflating their bills, just pay them. We have a standard, and we'll have room to increase that as, inflation and all those things occur, which is fine. But that's the way it'll work. And so it's both sides that need to be controlled, not just the insurance industry.
I'm not big on smoking, but I am thinking that maybe, I mean, I make my own cigarettes, but I'm not trying to go into business making them. I just make them for myself. But I'm thinking if by chance I can get Marlboro, Winston, Camel, Newport, whoever, to back me somehow, I'll go to Mexico, hand out cigarettes to people to vote for Trump. And I'm thinking, I wrote in there, I think I can maybe pull this off. I can maybe vote 20 times from Mexico. No, I have no idea. I don't know what.
Matt L.
I'm happy.
I like your joke, but let me get back to Matt L. I never said Obamacare was great. I said the idea was great, and I think that it would have succeeded. Not as good as socialized medicine, but it would have been a better system than we had before, and that we're getting now because Trump has destroyed it. Obamacare has been destroyed. So Obamacare would never be the greatest situation, but it was a good one. And it was more people were getting insured. And if we stuck it out, we would get more young people and young families buying into it. And then the coffers would have been filled. The insurance companies would have been happy because now they have more money than ever. And patients are happy because they're not getting bankrupt when they get seriously ill. So it was a total sum net gain for everybody. The problem was, like when Obama said you get to keep your own doctor, it was in a vacuum. I don't think that he purposely misled. When he said you can have your own doctor, that was certainly possible, but it depended on the doctors accepting it. And like I said, when I was an Obamacare member for just that year, my options were extremely limited, and they were with doctors that were in lower quality areas. Like you wouldn't be familiar with this, but I live in the San Fernando Valley. San Fernando itself is not a very great area, but that was where one of my doctors would have been if I chose that one. I ended up choosing this guy. I won't say his name. But because I wasn't happy with the service that I get there, because he wasn't happy that he was involved with it. Mainly they were all confused. When it first started, they didn't know how it worked. And so there was a lot of, there was a lack of certainty and this delving into the unknown that if the system existed for a long time and was allowed to work, it would have been fine. And again, it was not socialized medicine, it's capitalist.
Is Bernie trying to offer what Obama wanted to do from the beginning, or is
Bernie didn't like it? Bernie didn't like Obamacare because Obamacare was capitalist. Bernie's not a capitalist. Bernie wants socialized. Bernie wants a one payer. I forget how they go. Which I like. That's what I'm proposing. That's the one thing with Bernie that I like. It's when he starts getting into free college and these other luxuries where I go, you're batshit crazy.
Right. I mean, I can understand the idea. I guess, like Sister Sunshine brought up about other countries. So you look at that and you go, boy, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I like the idea that nobody would have issues. I mean, if they don't have money, that they'd still get help. Although people were able to go into an emergency room and get help before, one of the issues though might be that they were paying more than they should be for the medical help due to doctors charging so much because the insurance companies didn't pay them the amount that they were worth. And then of course you have people, their costs, the doctors in case something goes wrong, so I don't know. I don't know what, to me, it seems like a heck of a mess.
Matt says, I won't debate Sister Sunshine. I didn't see, are you disagreeing? All I saw from Sister Sunshine that she agreed with me about socialized medicine. Although now she says, prepare to die. I thought you said that socialized medicine was a good thing, Sister Sunshine. The European model is frightening. Their health delivery systems are failing. Once again, I was an Obamacare member, and I have family that are in the English healthcare system, and they're fine with it. In fact, my dad has traveled there, and my dad's an American citizen now. He was a British national. He had to become an American citizen. He got naturalized, right? But he went back there knowing they knew that he wasn't a citizen, and he got ill there, and he got free treatment there.
Wow.
Not that that's necessarily something I'm for. I'm not for that, because that will probably bankrupt the system. But I knowing family that is there, I mean, it's one of the biggest arguments I had with my uncle when I first met him, because I didn't go to England for the first time until I was 20. And my uncle was a very prestigious attorney, solicitor over there. And he would say to me in his very refined British, he was like, Robbie, why does America continue to allow people to live without insurance and without the ability to have medical care? It was hard to argue that. So it was very, very difficult to argue that. And the relatives that I know, there are some complaints about waiting time sometimes, but most of the time they're incredibly satisfied with the healthcare system in England. So I can only tell you from actual things I've heard, not stories I've read on Breitbart, for instance. Matt says our system was fine until we started giving illegals free healthcare. We don't give illegals free healthcare. What happens is they usually can't afford it. And if they're illegal here, then we can't really enforce it. That's a problem. How are veterans treated under Obama? I think fine. The VA has been a failed system for a long time. It's getting better, and I would agree that Trump has improved it. But I don't think Obama went out of his way. See, Matt, you've fallen into that conservative propaganda, and I'm sad for it. It's like Matt L., you might even say that Obamacare is socialized medicine, and you would be so far from truth. Hopefully you wouldn't say that. It's not. It was the dreaded Mormon Mitt Romney. It was a model based on what Mitt Romney did in Massachusetts, right? Wasn't that where Mitt Romney was from? Or he was governor?
Right. Yeah, I remember hearing that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, he set up a public health care system that was the model that was used in Obamacare. And again, it was not a socialized system. It was a system that it required people to participate in the capitalist insurance industry by paying into it. But anyway, so that's it. We've sort of beat veterans are treated much better under Trump. I would say that's one of the things that he's done right. But I would also say veterans are treated much better than they were under Bush, both of them, and under Reagan. So it matters where you put the priority. Trump did good in that regard, I think, because and now when I've heard from a number of my friends who are veterans, my father being one of them. My father was in Vietnam. His VA experience is much better now than it was in ever. Obama did nothing. I can't say that's. Remember, the president doesn't have control of funding and all of those things. There's a lot of other things that are involved. Good night, GY6.
Night.
I mean, you can't, in the same way that I can't view Trump as evil in all ways because I don't like him. You have to find a way, Matt, not to view and fall into the propaganda that separates us, which are false stories and false narratives, as if, for instance, and it happens on both sides. There are liberals right now that believe that Trump is doing things actively to hurt the country on purpose, in the same way the conservatives said that about Obama, and both of it is bullcrap. I think that everyone is self-serving.
I never said that about Obama. I mean, myself, I'm just saying, but I know some people did. I didn't like Obama, but I mean, I tried to see positive when it was there,
I had a lot. Socially, I thought it was great. I had no problems with the opening of like transgender in the military and civil rights and those things that people, we can agree to disagree.
Yeah.
But I think that a transgender soldier, there are a number of them. You could see, they're on YouTube, you could see a lot of videos of transgender soldiers that were great soldiers.
Well, I'm sure they could be.
They did a great job with their service. They'll look at that. Who was that traitor that Obama pardoned? And I'll agree that was stupid. Bergdahl or Berg something, Bo Bergdahl. You know what I'm talking about? There was that soldier that went.
I have to be honest, though. I mean, when you get into in the military, maybe it's different, but I know in school, anyhow, I suppose in the military you might run into some of the same issues. When you have locker rooms and such, and people are getting naked, they're taking showers, whatever. If somebody's just quiet and they don't say much, it's a complicated area, but I have to admit, if you know somebody's gay and it's like especially if it's a teacher or something, and they're, how in the heck do you do that? I mean, how do you have a gay teacher that's watching kids get naked, and yet he's attracted apparently to boys or to men, and little boys, we call them young men. To me, how do I not see that as a problem? I mean, it's weird, and yet if you talk about it, like even right now, somebody could use it against me because I'm talking about it.
Well, no, they're not going to use it against you, but the point would be like, well, you see news stories about straight teachers having sex and inappropriate relationships with students.
But my point is, you don't take a straight teacher and put him, if he has problems like that, or but there have been women that's done this with boys, but you sure as hell don't put a male teacher in a locker room with a bunch of naked girls running around.
Yeah, I agree
with that, And
I agree with that. It's really hard. It's really,
as we become more open to allowing everything, I think it becomes, I mean, there's a point where being liberal is nice, and I think, and it's loving and caring and all that, but there is a point where you go, wait a minute, man, it's like, we're next to common sense. I mean, if you're drawn to this, and I don't know. I
think that, but again, like you said, with common sense, it goes the same way with bathrooms, all those things, that the idea of molestation increasing in bathrooms if we allow certain types of people in there and stuff. And bathrooms are not a very sexy place in the same way that the battlefield is not as well. These aren't places that somebody wants. There are plenty of better places that a homosexual can go to get their rocks off.
Well, when you say the bathroom's not a
camp and the toilet,
right? But when you say the bathroom's not a sexy place, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Hitler, and there's other wackos who, for some reason, like manure and stuff smeared on their faces, or whatever, they golden showers, whatever the heck. Look, a warped mind's a freaking warped mind, and there's no sense in feeding it. I mean, somewhere you got to say, no, man. If you're attracted to this kind of person, we'd prefer that.
Warped minds are not gender or sexuality dependent, right? I mean, you get those. The guy Hitler was not gay.
No, but my point is, so there's a reason why you and I can't go into or maybe legally we could go into the woman's bathroom now. I don't know.
Well, in most cases, like in most businesses, it's silly to me. I laugh at it. I make fun of it because there was a picture of me you may have seen, I think, but you're not on my Instagram, where I took a picture at a Jiffy Lube where it was like a gender neutral restroom, and it just had one toilet. It was like, of course you're gender neutral. It's just one toilet. It's not a.
Oh yeah,
it's not
yeah. And that is accepted. Right. That's always been accepted.
Yeah, that's what you go to. You go to communal bathrooms. But
and you go into a service station or whatever. You're saying, and they only have one bathroom. Junk all over the place. The floor is dirty. Whatever.
Yeah,
And women used to say that either if you have to go, that's where you go. You know, doesn't matter.
The whole subculture of heterosexuals who greatly enjoy rest stop bathrooms as well, and glory holes as well. You know, or truck stops, right?
But that's also a place where there's not many people using the bathroom. Typically, you have to admit, when they usually only have one bathroom, there's usually not a whole ton of people in it. And when you go into a place where there's more and more people, and so there might be a number of people in the bathroom at the same time, I think that's why you have a men's and a women's.
Yeah, I have nothing against men's and women's bathrooms.
I mean, the reason the gas station may not have it is because I don't see somebody in the bathroom, but like 2-3 times a day, you know?
I don't think there are pedophiles out there dressing like women in order to look at little girls in bathrooms. I think that those men are in the bath. It happens anyway. If a pervert man sees a little girl go by herself into a toilet, it's a risk. It's a reason I always went with my son to the bathroom. It's a reason if I had a daughter, I would go into the bathroom with her until she was of age that she could scream and be able to let us know something was going on.
But
right?
wouldn't you? And that's a rough situation. I mean, I'm not going to walk into a woman's bathroom. It's kind of, unless you knew nobody was in there. But if somebody walked in, you had to leave.
It happens. It's happened.
You had to leave if there was a woman coming in or something. You know, I mean.
Yeah, but it happened. It happened in Vegas where a little girl went into the bathroom by herself. This was within the last 7 years, and she was molested by some guy that followed her in the woman's bathroom.
Jeez.
So. Yeah. It was late at night, and the parents were too busy gambling.
Well,
so
maybe we need armed guards in the bathroom.
Well, these are all issues, but I mean, the point is stuff happens, and I understand that the reason why we have these stigmas is because they have been societal for so long that if we break them, particularly as it relates to something like soldiers, if somebody wants to serve in the army, I don't think there's anyone that's going to make the decision, I want to serve in the army in order to get gay sex.
I'd agree with you. Yeah, I know.
You don't need to do it. Like Sister Sunshine says, they can go to a rest stop, right? They don't need to join the army. There are people that want to. You have to want to. They want to serve their country, and they are patriots, whether or not they're mentally ill or not. They're patriots. Any person who's a transgender that decides to serve in the military and serve our country is a patriot.
You're saying whether they're mentally ill or not. What do you? I'm not trying to.
Well, Sister Sunshine said that we don't want mentally ill in our army, but we have tons of them. If they're bipolar and they take medication from them, are we going to say no? There's a lot of soldiers. What about soldiers that have served a couple tours and they have PTSD? That's a mental illness. Should we, make sure? There's a lot.
I don't think, but I mean, obviously, I don't know that you can have schizophrenics in the military. I don't know.
You don't want schizophrenics having a gun, but transgender doesn't, think that God's talking.
An airplane, I mean, a fighter jet or something,
Yeah, I mean, but there are levels of mental.
Oh gosh, schizophrenic jet pilots, and that you just. I don't know why that's funny. It's not funny.
Sister Sunshine wants a link to try. I'd love to. It was there, but I've got to go. I know my son just calling. It's 8:00. I just noticed, so I'm going to head home.
So if you want to, bring Sister Sunshine, no, never mind. I'm going to leave. I'm going to let you go.
No, I could bring her in and then take myself out, and you guys could chat as long as you want. You want to do that?
Okay, I'll be Rob.
I could do that.
For like 2 cigarettes, and then I gotta
go. The only thing is you'll have no control. You can't bring anybody else in once I bring her in, and you guys can just leave. And
how do we
end the broadcast later?
Okay. All right. See,
DB Cisco says that because she's a woman, she doesn't count. DB Cisco. That's why.
That's the reason you're not going to let her in, because she's a woman. That's right.
That's exactly right. So I'm going to let her in. There's a link if you're still there. You can talk to Bruce, but I got to go.
Just like Levi.
All right, you jump in and you talk about what an ultra lib.
Wait, she said it's okay if Bruce opens a chat. I will. Yeah, I let women in my chat.
I don't like women in my chat. I hate
It's funny, Rob.
But see, now she's coming in. I got it. See, no, you're gone. You're gone.
He did let her, and he was feeling guilty. He's like, "Oh my God, they're not going to believe I'm a true liberal if I won't let a woman come in. We got to let the woman come in."
No, you go set up your own chat, your own.
Wait, what'd you do? Where'd she go?
Chat. I don't want any libtard feminist chat here.
I just saw her. I swear I just saw Sister
Sunshine. Yeah, there she is again. Oh, she just left. I was popping her in. I was going to say, "Hi, Sister Sunshine. Bye." Oh, I kicked her out. Oh. Because I gotta go, and I won't be able to turn it off. So go set up a chat on
that. Are you going to use the men's or the women's?
I don't have to go. I have to go home, and I'll use our. I'm going to use our gender. Our gender. Our bathrooms in my house are gender neutral.
That's true. Same here.
Sadly, my wife hates that fact. In fact, she was apparently I forgot to put the seat down, which is very rare for me.
Put a sign up there, men, women, and then I'll try to sneak in.
No, we have aliens and people in wheelchairs, and we have that sign on the top. Anyway, what channel are you going to set up a chat? You going to do it right now?
Oh, geez.
I think you should do both.
Late to finish working anyhow. Which one do you think I should? Blessed
Bible Fight Club.
Yeah, I think that really bothers Vicky real bad.
That's why you should do it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think so.
All right. I might see you in the chat later. We'll see.
All right. Take care. Good night.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Talk to you later. And remember,
worst Christian ever.
Amen.
Amen. See you later.
Good night.